Hey everyone, it's Mrs. Ellswick, and I'll be reading to you about Mayan religion. Religion was important to every part of Mayan life. The Mayas had many different gods. Each day, month, city, and occupation had its own special god or goddess. The Mayas had a variety of religious festivals and celebrations. Most of these celebrations included human sacrifice. The Mayan Empire was divided into many city-states. Think of it like our country divided into 50 different states. Each city-state had its own ruler. His name was Halich Unik. This meant true man or real man. The Mayas believed Halich Unik was a living god. He ruled until his death. And at his death, his oldest son would become the next Halich Unik. If that Halich Unik did not have a son, then his brother would rule. And of course, if he didn't have a brother, the ruler's council elected a member of the family to serve. Some historians believe that the Halich Unik also served as the high priest during religious ceremonies. The Halich Unik dressed in fancy, colorful clothes. He also wore a very large headdress. Temple wall paintings show him with large ear decoration, cross-eyed, and many tattoos. I'm going to play a snippet of this video to introduce you to a little bit background knowledge on their ruler and their priest.
Archaeologists believe that Tikal, like other Mayan cities, was a ceremonial center, which means that most of the large buildings we see today were used for religious ceremonies. The most important ceremonies were performed by the highest-ranking members of society, the noble priests. They ruled over Maya society. The highest priest of all was known as the true man. He was like a king and ruled over everyone in the city.
Many other priests also served with the Halich Unik. These priests were then named Akin. They had many duties. They had the knowledge of math and astronomy. Some of the Akin were called prophets, and some performed religious sacrifices while others performed medical rituals. The Mayas believed that only the priests could explain the mysteries of life and death. The Mayas believed that the earth was flat. They thought it was on the back of a crocodile that floated in a large pond. And at another time, they believed the earth was the floor of a lizard house. The Mayas' religion also taught them that there were 13 layers of heaven above the earth. They also believed that there were 9 underworlds below the earth. They thought that they lived in the 5th creation of the world. The 4 worlds that had come before had each been destroyed by a great flood. And at the beginning of the 5th world, that is when God created humans from corn. Many of Mayan religious ceremonies include gifts and sacrifices to the various gods and goddesses. The Mayas believed the gods would give them favors if they gave the gods prayers, offering, and sacrifices. They often felt that gods were angry at them in times of drought and floods. And so the sacrifices would be all these valuable gifts to make their gods happy, perhaps blood and humans. In many ceremonies, the priests would cut themselves. This was a way to get blood to present to the gods. A lot of times it would be cutting their tongues. The Mayas had 3 different methods of sacrificing people. Often, the priests would take the victim to an altar at a temple. Then the priest would cut the heart out of the living victim and present it to the god. In another method, the priest would tie the victim to a wooden pole, and then they would throw spears and arrows at the victim's chest in the area of the heart. And the third type of sacrifice, they just simply threw the victim into this sacred well called the cenote. The most famous of these wells is located in Chichen Itza. It's called the Well of Sacrifice. I had a chance to go visit the Well of Sacrifice when I went to Chichen Itza years ago. I would encourage you to look up on Google Maps this area and drop your guy and take a look around. Now, sometimes when the victims were thrown into the cenotes, they would actually survive and would not drown. At that point, the priests would pull them back out of the well. The Mayas believed the gods had chosen to save these victims. The priests then asked the victims what messages would they bring back from God. The Mayas believed they had spoken to the gods, and in return, those victims received special treatment from then on. I'm going to play you a video about some divers who actually got to go into a cenote.
Was so small, only one person could fit at a time. First, we lowered our dive gear, and then we lowered ourselves, using ropes to rappel down to the water. Listo. I was a little apprehensive about dropping myself down into a deep, dark hole in the earth, but also excited to discover what lies beneath. Cenotes make up part of the unique geology of the Yucatan Peninsula, limestone caves created by thousands of years of chemical erosion. Submerging yourself in a dark cave goes against all human instincts for self-preservation, but this is water, and water was life for the Maya. Diving in a cenote means diving in utter darkness. The only natural light we had came from the small blue hole above us, the one we'd entered through. Floating in a cloud of darkness, we explored with our flashlights, looking to uncover the secrets of this underworld. The water in a cenote is incredibly clear. With light, everything glows a rich turquoise color. The ancient Maya believed that cenotes were holy. This was the window into their underworld, Xibalba, the place of fear. Diving in the cenote brought me face to face with remnants of Mexico's ancient Maya past. It's one thing to see pottery in a museum. It's quite another to dive down and to see items that were used by the ancient Maya left exactly where they were dropped over 1,000 years ago. Even more chilling was to come into contact with the people themselves. This skull belongs to someone who lived before the Spanish settlement of Mexico. I don't think anyone can truly appreciate the ancient Maya civilization without first exploring the cenote. It was part of their world, and it was part of what they believed. For me,
And then if you'd like to finish that video, there's a few seconds left. Plus, I provided another video at the bottom of this page. Sorry. The Mayans also worshiped the dead. They believed the dead became one with the gods. They worshiped their ancestors at many religious ceremonies. They also built pyramids over sacred remains of their dead rulers. So Mayan god and goddesses, there are so many. Wanted to point out just a few to you. The very first picture that you see is Itzmana. He was the head god. He was Lord of the heavens, Lord of night and day. His name meant lizard. Carved pictures show him as this old cross-eyed man. He had a lizard's body. The Mayans believed he invented books and writing. Kanich Ahu, he was the sun god. He was also the god of rulers. And the bottom picture shows Chak. He was the rain god, which was super important because crops needed rain to grow. Carvings showed him as a reptile with a large nose pointing down and curling fangs, and he had 4 different aspects. Young or Yum Cax, he is the god of maize or corn. He is also the god of all agriculture, which is farming. Pictures always show him as this young man, either carrying a plant or has a plant on top of his head as a headdress. Achpuk, god of death, shows him as a skull and a skeleton. Achshab, he is the god of trade. Many artists painted his face black and a drooping lower lip. And then we have a female. Her name is Ishel. She is the moon and rainbow goddess. She's also the goddess of weaving, which we will talk about the importance of weaving this week. And also she's the goddess of childbirth. And last but not least, because there are many, many more gods, this is Baluch Chatan. He is the god of war and human sacrifice. Carvings of him show a black line around his eye and down on his cheek. He is at times shown with a torch or a weapon in his hand. So take a moment, reread or re-listen to this article, and then head over to edulastic.com where you can go ahead and answer questions about today's passage. I will leave you with a video clip called The Maya Myth of the Morning Star. I'll play just a few moments of it, but at your own leisure, please take a listen to the rest of this video as well as any others from today's plans.
Chak-Ek rose from the underworld to the surface of the eastern sea and on into the heavens. His brother, K'in-Ahau, followed. Though Chak-Ek had risen first, K'in-Ahau outshone him, and the resentful Chak-Ek descended back to the underworld to plot against his brother.
All right, I will leave you with that. Hey, thanks for listening. As always, good luck and do your best.